I-5 bridge replacement has a ton of controversy. Let's talk about it. Hey, welcome back to the Living in Vancouver and Camas, Washington YouTube channel. I'm your host, Hannah Dubyne, and I'm thankful you're here today because we're talking about a hot button issue here in Southwest Washington, and that is the I-5 bridge replacement project. Oh yeah, this has been on everyone's mind for like the last 20 years, and we've kind of gotten nowhere. So for those of you who are new in the area, you may be interested to hear about this. And for those of you who live in Clark County or have lived here for a long time, I'm curious to hear your take as well. By the way, if you're new here, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, and you can sign up for our Weekend Happenings with Hannah email list down below. We handwrite it for you every single week with the best couple events happening in Clark County, and we send out awesome real estate tips. So thanks for subscribing to that and watching. First, a little snippet of history about the I-5 bridge. It was first built in 1917, which if you're doing the math, yes, that was over 100 years ago, so it's a very old bridge, and it's time for it to get replaced. It was originally called the Columbia River Crossing Project, but it has since morphed into the Interstate Bridge Replacement, and the original Columbia River Crossing Project came out in, I believe, 2005. So that was about 20 years ago. It was 19 years ago from today. That's a long time, and we still kind of haven't gotten anywhere. Recently, the bridge replacement has gotten back in the news because about a month ago, we had the Maryland bridge collapse happen where a ship hit the bridge and the entire bridge collapsed. Obviously, that's a little bit different than what we're thinking for concerns here, but still a very big concern. Speaking of concerns, that's mostly what I want to talk about today, is go over why this project is so controversial, what updates have happened, and basically what the general public and the local governments think of the project. I'm going through this list in no particular order. These are all important, but again, I'd love to hear what you think down below in the comments. So one of the first concerns is the impact that construction is going to have on traffic. This is obviously massive. Tons of people cross the river every single day to go to work in Portland. It's very much a needed bridge, and already there's not enough space on both of those bridges, so I can't ever envision a time when there's not a bridge in I-5. I don't know how they're gonna handle that, but it's gonna be a mess. And there's really kind of no way around that. I'm sure they're gonna divert some of the traffic to the east side, which is gonna make 205 worse, but that's just a really hard thing to grapple with, especially for those who commute over to Portland every day. Construction always seems to have those bottlenecks where it's like, okay, in order to improve whatever infrastructure we're working on, we have to get rid of it first or close it off first, and then it can get better. Of course, this would not only impact the Clark County and Multnomah County residents, but it would impact the entire West Coast. There are so many truckers that cross that bridge every day, and it's on I-5. That's our main trucking route right down West Coast, and I'm sure it would have a very, very large economic impact, very large. The next concern, especially for people who live in this area, is daily tolls. Toll bridges. We don't have a lot of toll bridges in this area, thankfully, I think. I think toll bridges are a scam, but I know other areas of the country do, and people are very opposed to toll roads here, which is, hey, that's their right, they're already paying taxes. If you do the math for even like a $5 per time toll or a $2 per time toll, if you have to cross that bridge twice a day for work, you are spending thousands of extra dollars a year just to cross a bridge that you were already crossing for free and you already pay taxes. So a lot of public pushback on tolls. I personally would love to see this bridge stay open. It's also on I-5, and I don't think there's any other toll roads on I-5. It's I-5. It's a staple of the West Coast. Shouldn't have tolls on it. The next concern that the public has raised is public transportation. There have been many proposals where they're gonna put public transportation that goes across from the Portland side to the Washington side, some sort of light rail system. A lot of people in Southwest Washington are opposed to that. A lot of people in Portland like it. People in Portland are generally more pro public transportation because they're a big city, whereas us here in Clark County, we're not as big of a city. We don't use a ton of public transportation, though we do have it, and we like our cars. I think a lot of that concern is stemming from obviously the costs involved, right? They're gonna have to build out infrastructure and a whole program for that, and it's public, which means we pay for it as taxpayers. And then also, who's gonna come over the bridge from Portland in that public transportation? Taking public transportation in Portland is not fun. I do it a couple times a year. I'll take one of their light rail things downtown to go to an event, and there's always sketchy people on those rides, and I don't love that. The next concern is environmental concerns. Frankly, I feel like the environmental concerns are a concern of a smaller group of people. We should obviously, of course, be concerned about the environment, but also we have to be practical and do what needs to get done to help our region, sustain those trips that need to be done every single day. But there are many activist groups who have fought against past proposals and said, hey, this isn't eco-friendly enough, we need to do it a different way, and that different way is usually a more expensive way. The next huge concern that we've heard a lot with the I-5 bridge replacement is eminent domain. If you live close to I-5 right now on the Southwest Washington side especially, I mean, that's where I'm mostly paying attention to, right? Because that's where I live and do business. Your property might get taken from you by the government, and they have to rightly compensate you, but you're never made whole if your property is just taken from you. So if you live in those areas close to I-5, you're at risk of losing your home that you've maybe lived in for decades, or maybe you're at risk of losing your business. They've put out some documents showing where that might happen, but you can just envision it right around I-5. If you live super close to it, you may lose your house or your business because the new infrastructure has to go right on top of it. That's a really tough one because the point of eminent domain is, hey, this group of people, these 50 people are going to lose their houses for the greater good of millions of people. Once again, it goes back to competing interests. Is someone necessarily right and wrong in that situation? No, but in one side we have millions of people benefiting, and then on the other side we have dozens of people or maybe hundreds of people not benefiting. So hard to weigh those two. The next concern that's been very vocal about the bridge replacement is Portland spilling over into Clark County. If you don't already know, Clark County is very different from Portland area. The makeup of people is different, our culture is different, our politics is different. And frankly, people in Clark County, they don't want Portland here. They're in Clark County for a reason. And they don't want the homelessness situations coming over from the Portland side to the Washington side. I don't really want that either. So it's a major concern, and we want to make the bridge accessible for people, and it would be nice to have different modes of transportation, but we also don't want Portland's problems just migrating over to this side of the river. Next concern that has come up, of course, money. Money is always a concern with everything in the world, right? Money gotta be top of the list. Every single year this project cost goes up. There have been disputes over the years about who is paying for what. I don't know who's paying for what. It's very convoluted. Those documents are very long. Oregon's gonna have to pay for some. Washington's gonna have to pay for some. Multnomah County's probably gonna pay for some. Clark County's probably gonna pay for some. It sounds like the federal government is gonna chip in some amount. How much? I'm not sure. Should one side or the other, Oregon or Washington, pay more or less? Should they both share it 50-50? Both states are obviously gonna negotiate for themselves. They'd rather the other state pay more. So that's has a difficult topic right there. To give you some insight to the complexities of the costs associated with this bridge replacement, it has doubled in project costs since 2020. It's 2024 when I'm filming this. 4 years, doubled. What? How does that happen? Costs have gone up, inflation has risen, and I don't know, maybe the government's just not quite as good at their job as they used to be. Feels like that's kind of the case every year that goes by, no matter what government we're talking about. The project cost is now estimated at $5 to $7.5 billion. That's an insane range, that's a 50% range, but that's the numbers I could find. $5 to $7.5 billion, that's a lot. On top of that, the costs will continue to rise every year that this project is delayed more. That's how it's gone in the past, that's how it's gonna go in the future. So time is money, people. Time is money. I think one of the good things that we could take out of the cost element is that it will bring a lot of jobs and a lot of economic traffic to the area. Let's say we're spending $6 billion on it. Well, the waterfront project was about $2 billion. And that brought tons of economic prosperity to our area. 10,000 jobs, people moving here, new businesses opening, new jobs being created. that is going to be very similar to the bridge project, and that project is going to cost even more. So that is one positive thing in this whole debacle. By the way, I didn't mention this in the beginning. I totally meant to, and I should have, but the bridge is old, and I think the #1 looming concern for folks with the safety of it is if we have an earthquake, which we're on the West Coast, that bridge is probably going in the ocean, and that's a big deal. So hopefully we can get to it before the big earthquake hits here on the West Coast. So I'm really curious to hear if you are a longtime Clark County resident or you just moved to the area, what you think of the I-5 bridge replacement, what your opinions are. Go ahead and comment them down below. We're also gonna have our sources down below, and if there's anything you'd like to add, we'd love to hear from you. If you're looking to list or buy your home in Clark County, Washington, myself and my team at Dubyne Realty Group, we would love to be of service to you. So text us, DM us on Instagram, send us an email. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.